Started.
Okay, introduce Jana.
Hmm.
Okay, good morning to all. Welcome to 10th class English medium students. In biological science, the fifth lesson, coordination and linkage system. The subtopic that is autonomous nervous system and the feedback mechanism will explained by the K. Vishnuvardhan Reddy sir, ZPSS, Talapenta. Welcome sir. Welcome to online classes. Okay, take your session sir.
Okay, thank you, Ramarao sir. Good morning, all of you. Welcome to YouTube online live classes conducted by District Educational Officers Suryapet and Khammam. We are in fifth chapter, that is coordination, the linking system. You have already learned about how nervous system works and the structure of brain and spinal cord also. Now we are going to learn about autonomic nervous system that runs our internal organs without our consciousness. Before going to that chapter, we are going to recapitulate what we have learned and go into our chapter. Okay. Okay, you have learned about the nervous system, what is nervous system and how it works. Before we are going to our lesson. We just recapitulate what we have learned. The voluntary and involuntary actions in our body are controlled by nervous system. You know, voluntary actions, that means that are controlled by our consciousness and our willing. We can move our hand with our willing. That is called voluntary actions. And involuntary actions, that are not controlled by our consciousness. For example, heart beating, respiration, digestion. These are all involuntary actions. Both voluntary and involuntary actions are controlled by our nervous system. And it is the part of an animal's body that coordinates the behavior and transmitting signals between different areas. You know, signals should be transported between the parts of our body. The signals that from our sense organs, signals, nerve impulses that from receptors should be transmitted to the brain, and brain will uh, produce responses, and the responses should be transmitted to the effector organs. It is the part of an animal's body. We may study our nervous system on the basis of areas from which nerves originate and then spread out to the whole body as mainly two divisions. There are two divisions in our nervous system, that is central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. This is already explained by our teachers. Okay, we recapitulate about the central nervous system. The CNS is the processing center of the body and consists of brain and the spinal cord. You already know that any information will be processed by the brain and produce responses. These are the main parts of the nervous system. Brain and spinal cord only process the information and produce responses. Both of these are protected by three layers of membranes known as meninges. In the lesson, the structure of brain, you learnt about this. For further protection, the brain is encased within the hard bones of the skull, while the spinal cord is protected with the bony vertebrae of our backbones. Because these are very sensitive and smooth, they should be protected by hard bones like skull and bony vertebrae. Okay, the peripheral nervous system. You have already learnt about this also. The peripheral nervous system is a collective term of the nervous system structures that do not lie within the CNS. This should be remembered. The peripheral nerve, which is the what is the peripheral nervous system? It is a collective term for the nervous system structures that do not lie within the CNS. You know about the CNS, that is central nervous system. Except the brain and spinal cord, all other nervous system, parts of the nervous system is called as the peripheral nervous system, except brain and spinal cord. The large majority, and we should know about the nerves. What are nerves? In the next line, you will learn about that. The large majority of the axon bundles called nerves. You know the structure of the neuron. In that, you may observe that the neuron has a large cell body and long tail like axon. The axon bundles, actually that axon bundles are called from different neurons are called as nerves. These are belong to PNS. Even when the cell bodies of the neurons to which they belong reside within the brain or spinal cord. This should also be remembered. So the cell bodies of that neuron lies within the brain or spinal cord. Don't bother about that. Even the cell bodies of the brain or spinal cord lies within the brain or spinal cord, the cell bodies of that neuron. The axon bundles of that neurons will be considered to belong to the peripheral nervous system, even though their roots are in spinal cord or brain. The axon bundles of that nerves should be called as peripheral nervous system. Okay, here we see the flow chart of the nervous system. Nervous system is divided into two divisions, that is central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. These two are explained by our teachers. You know that central nervous system consists of brain and spinal cord, and peripheral nervous system is subdivided into two parts, that is sensory peripheral nervous system and motor peripheral nervous system. You know that the term sensory, sensory nervous system actually transmits the signals from sense organs or receptors to the brain. That is sensory nervous system. That is sensory peripheral nervous system. And that there is another part of the peripheral nervous system, that is motor peripheral nervous system. This carries responses from the brain to the effector organs or different organs of the body. Then this motor nervous system is further subdivided into two parts. Those are somatic and autonomic. I will explain these two in next slide. Before that, somatic means this is in our control. This nervous system transmits the signals which are in our consciousness. And autonomic, this nervous system transmits the signals which are not under our control. Okay, the autonomic nervous system further subdivided into two types, that is sympathetic and parasympathetic. Okay, here you can see the differences between somatic peripheral nervous system and autonomic peripheral nervous system. You may observe these diagrams. You have already known about this. You have studied these in 9th class. This is striated muscle, this is smooth muscle, and this is cardiac muscle. In 9th class, you may learn that these muscles are in our control. These muscles are not under our control. These are called voluntary muscles. These are called involuntary muscles. See here, somatic nervous system innervates skeletal muscle or voluntary muscles. That means these muscles are under our control. That means somatic nervous system controls the actions that are in our control. Okay. Next, autonomic nervous system controls smooth and cardiac muscle. You already know that smooth and cardiac muscles are not under our control, not in under our control. So, autonomic nervous system controls on its own without our willingness or without our consciousness. Okay, here you see the PNS is divided into somatic and autonomic. The somatic part consists of the nerves that innervate skin, joints, and muscles. You can move your hand or joints or muscles, but you cannot control your heart or your digestive system. So that is not somatic nervous system. The cell bodies of somatic sensory neurons lie in dorsal root ganglion of the spinal cord. The autonomic part, also known as the autonomic nervous system, contains neurons that innervate the internal organs that are blood vessels and glands. You know that these are not under our control. Okay, see this GIFs. Okay, here it is the moving hand. You know that you can control these movements. You can move your hand or you can stop moving your hand. So this is in our control. This is controlled by somatic nervous system. Here you can see the beating heart. You cannot control these movements. So these are under autonomic peripheral nervous system control. Okay. These are the difference between somatic nerve cell and autonomic nerve cell. You can observe the differences by seeing these diagrams. In earlier classes, you have learned that medulla oblongata is the region that regulates heartbeat, breathing, etc. So, autonomic nervous system and this medulla oblongata coordinate these autonomic actions. The system that helps to bring about such activities of internal organs is called autonomous nervous system. Normally, such involuntary activities takes place by the coordinated efforts of the medulla oblongata and autonomous nervous system. Here you can observe that these involuntary activities takes place by the coordinated efforts. These medulla oblongata and autonomous nervous system both controls the involuntary actions. Okay, here these are the differences between somatic nerve cell and autonomic nerve cell. You can observe that there is no myelin sheath in autonomic nerve cell. So these somatic nerve cells are heavily myelinated, whereas these are slightly or non-myelinated. These nerve cells are autonomic nerve cells are non-myelinated, but somatic nerve cells are highly myelinated. And impulse causes only stimulatory actions, but autonomic nerve cells cause either stimulatory or inhibitory actions. It can activate or stop the actions. Autonomic nerve cells. Okay. Here is the divisions of autonomic nervous system. This is very important. Autonomic nervous system is subdivided into two types, that is sympathetic division and parasympathetic division. Sympathetic division, this is called as fight or flight nervous system, and parasympathetic division is called as rest and digest nervous system. These have opposite actions. Whereas sympathetic division activates the different organs, parasympathetic division controls those actions. So they work in opposite. Sympathetic division response during any potential danger, but the body speeds up and tenses up and becomes more alert during the actions of sympathetic division. So when you are active or when you are in danger, sympathetic division activates. Okay. It activates different organs in our body. Sympathetic division response during any potential danger or in active stage. But parasympathetic division is activates in rest and digest times. The body speeds up and tenses up and becomes more alert during these sympathetic division active state. But parasympathetic division inhibits body from overworking. It stops overworking of different organs. For example, it speeds up heart sympathetic division, but it it uh, it stops overworking of that heart, restores the body to calm and resting stage. That is the working of parasympathetic division. Here you can see the dilation and constriction of the pupil. These are different actions done by sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Here you can see the dilation and constriction of the pupil. When you are in danger, to improve the visibility, sympathetic division dilates the pupil. Okay. When the danger goes and to become rest stage, parasympathetic division constrict the pupil. Okay. These are working in opposite. You can observe that sympathetic division dilates the pupil, whereas parasympathetic division constricts the pupil. These are two very important because there is no dilation after, if there is no dilation due to the poor visibility, we cannot face the problem. If the dilation persists for long time due to the intensity of light, our retina may be damaged. So constriction also important. And in the same way, if you go into the dark room, dilation of the pupil occurs for increasing visibility. If you enters in the very bright room, the constriction of the pupil occurs. These are the actions done by sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions of the nervous system. These are both important, dilation and constriction. If the dilation will not occur, the visibility will be very poor. If the constriction will not occur, our retina, our sensors may be damaged due to the intensity of the light. Okay, here you can see the sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions of the nervous system. The sympathetic system is formed by the chain of ganglia on either sides of the vertebral column and the associated nerves. Here we have to understand the word ganglia. Ganglia is nothing but the junction of the neurons, the junction of the different neurons. Okay, the sympathetic system is formed by the chain of ganglia on either side of the vertebral column and the associated nerves. You can see the ganglia here. Okay, the sympathetic nervous system is formed by the ganglia on either sides. Actually, this side also has ganglia, but one side is shown for the purpose of showing two different nervous systems. This side also ganglia present, but only this side is shown. These ganglia present on both sides of the vertebral column. From these ganglia, the sympathetic system is formed. Okay, it activates our organ systems. Next, the parasympathetic system. This is the parasympathetic system. This is a sympathetic system. The parasympathetic system is formed by the nerves arising from the ganglia of the brain and the posterior part of the spinal cord. This is the posterior part of the spinal cord and this is the brain. Okay, clearly observe that The parasympathetic system is formed by the nerves arising from the brain and posterior part of the spinal cord only. Remember this, the parasympathetic system is formed by the nerves arising from the ganglia of the brain and posterior. This is the anterior part of the spinal cord and this is the posterior part of the spinal cord. Okay. The parasympathetic system is formed by nerves arising from the ganglia of the brain and posterior part of the spinal cord. These sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems both constitutes autonomous nervous system. Okay, autonomous nervous system constitutes both sympathetic and parasympathetic. Both these sympathetic and sympathetic together called as autonomous nervous system. Okay, once again, it is very important to remember that it is the part of the peripheral nervous system only. It is the part of peripheral nervous system consisting of 12 pairs of cranial nerves. Cranial nerves means the nerves which are arised from brain, and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Spinal nerves. Okay, total 43 nerves are present in peripheral nervous system. 12 pairs of cranial nerves that are arised from brain, and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Okay, here is schematic diagram of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, how it controls different organs. This is showing how different organs are controlled by the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. All internal organs and which are not controlled by our willing or our consciousness will be controlled by sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. These both together are called as autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system has two divisions, that is sympathetic, which activates different organs, and which suppress different organs or bring normal states, is called as parasympathetic autonomic nervous system. Okay. Okay, these are different actions carried by sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions. Pupil. Sympathetic nervous system dilates the pupil, you already know that, and constrict by parasympathetic. Vision for lens, far focus. It is for increasing visibility, and near focus, parasympathetic division. Salivary and gland secretion, high in viscosity, or stops. Sympathetic nervous system actually stops the salivation, and serous very diluted by parasympathetic system. Heart, increased rate and pressure to face any problem or danger. Sympathetic nervous system activates and increase the pressure, increase the heart beating rate by sympathetic nervous system, and parasympathetic nervous system lowers the rate and pressure. This is very important. If there is no parasympathetic nervous system, due to the high working and high pressure, the internal organs of our body may be damaged. So both these are very important, sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. One sympathetic nervous system increases the activity of our organs, whereas parasympathetic nervous system brings them to the normal stage. If there is no parasympathetic nervous system, due to the high working, high pressure, our internal organs may be damaged. Lungs, dilation of respiratory passages, constriction of the respiratory passages. Dilation of respiratory passages allows the lungs to transport more oxygen into our body. Gastrointestinal, decreased motility, increased motility. Actually, sympathetic nervous system stops the digestion because more oxygen and glucose should be transported to different muscles to fight or flight. So the digestion will be stopped. Kidneys, decreased filtration rate, increased filtration rate. Male genitalia, ejaculation and erection. Vascular smooth muscle, variable depending on the neurotransmitter relaxation. More parasympathetic division works on relaxation. Sweat glands, increased activity. Sweat glands, because during fight or flight, our body may be heat up. So to cool down our body, sweat glands are also activated by sympathetic nervous system. No innervation. There is no action by parasympathetic nervous system. Arteries to skeletal muscle dilation, because skeletal muscle are very important in fight or flight stage. So arteries of the skeletal muscle are dilated during sympathetic effect. Veins are variable depending on neurotransmitter. Okay, next, feedback mechanism. This is also very important in our body. Feedback mechanism for our survival. This is very important. Feedback mechanism is very important to maintain homeostasis in our body. Before this, we have to know about the homeostasis. Homeostasis means ability of an organism to maintain internal conditions despite of the changing environment around it. Understand this? Homeostasis, it is very important to maintain internal conditions. There are many conditions, or favorable conditions are should be maintained by our body for our survival. Though outer conditions are high or low, for example, our body temperature is maintained at 98.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Though outer temperature is high or low, our body temperature should be or will be maintained at 98.4 degrees. If it increases or decreases, we cannot survive. So this maintenance of the different conditions is called homeostasis. There should be no excess water or low water content in our body. This is also maintained by our body system. This is called homeostasis, the ability of an organism to maintain internal conditions despite of the changing environment around it. The environment may change its conditions, but internal conditions should not be changed for the survival of that organism. This maintenance of the internal conditions at some point is called as homeostasis. Here you observe.
Homeostasis maintains a constant internal environment so that important functions and processes in the body can be carried out properly. We looked at homeostasis in more detail, getting too hot or too cold.
Here you can see different types of conditions like temperature, blood sugar, breathing. If outer environment is too hot, our sweat glands will be activated. When our body comes to normal stage, the sweat glands will be deactivated. Here, blood sugar condition. If the blood sugar rises, cells absorb glucose. When the blood sugar comes to normal stage, the absorption of the glucose will be stopped. And when concentration of carbon dioxide increases in our body, breathing rate will be increased. When carbon dioxide comes to normal stage, breathing rate will be normalized. Okay, this is homeostasis. When temperature rises, sweat glands will be activated. When normal stage attained, sweat glands will be suppressed. When blood sugar increases, insulin will be produced. When normal stage attained, insulin production will be stopped. When our body contain high carbon dioxide, concentration. Breathing rate will be increased. When we attain normal stage, breathing rate comes to normal. This is homeostasis.
We looked at homeostasis in more detail getting too hot. Homeostasis. Homeostasis maintains a constant internal environment so that important functions and processes in the body can be carried out properly. We looked at homeostasis in more detail getting too hot or too cold, and it found in homeostasis, keeping different values around a constant.
Okay, this is the process of homeostasis or feedback mechanism. When our sensors in our body detects the change, corrective mechanism activated. For example, heat is detected by sensors and corrective mechanism. That means sweat gland activation will be activated. Then condition returns to set point. That means our body is cooled down and corrective mechanism switch off. That means sweat glands will be deactivated. This is the feedback mechanism working model in our body. Okay, when change detected, corrective mechanism will be activated. When condition returns to set point, that means our body is cooled down, then corrective mechanisms switch off.
Set point. It's a continuous cycle. Very simply put, you get too hot. Your body detects that it's hot. Your body turns on mechanisms to cool itself down. You cool down, the mechanisms are turned off again, and you're back to the start. We're going to look at blood sugar levels in more detail.
Okay,
We need glucose.
blood sugar levels
respiration.
when
Too
will
much or
be
too little can be dangerous. This is where negative feedback comes in. When an animal has eaten, blood glucose levels in the body increase.
when blood sugar levels increased than set point, our receptors in pancreas will detect the high blood sugar level and produce insulin.
Receptor cells in the pancreas detect this change. This stimulates the release of insulin. Insulin is a hormone that causes the absorption of glucose.
This insulin changes glucose into glycogen.
From the blood, which is changed into glycogen by the liver, where it can then be stored. This causes the blood glucose levels to fall until they return to.
So the blood glucose level will be decreased. So blood glucose levels reached the set point. Then
the set point. This is detected by receptor cell.
Okay. When pancreas detects high blood sugar levels, promotes insulin release. This insulin changes glucose to glycogen and stores in tissue cells. This mechanism lowers the blood sugar level. When pancreas receptors in pancreas detect low blood sugar levels, it produces glucagon. It causes to produce glucose from glycogen. This will raise blood sugar. This is the feedback mechanism. When receptors in pancreas detect high blood sugar, pancreatic cells will produce insulin. This causes reducing high blood sugar. When pancreatic receptors detect low blood sugar levels, this will produce glucagon. This will causes rise in high blood sugar. They works in opposite. Okay, this is also that the working of vasopressin. You may learn about this in excretory system. When receptors in brain identify high water levels, then pituitary gland will produce vasopressin.
నీరు కుల
Mute.
అయిపోయిందా
Mute. This will produce vasopressin. This activates absorption of water in our urinary system. So automatically water content in our body will be reduced. When water content is decreased in our body fluids, then it will be detected by the sensors in our brain and stops the production of vasopressin. This causes raising of water levels in our body. This is also feedback mechanism. When water level is increased, vasopressin will be stopped. When there is a lack of water in our body, vasopressin will be released and the absorption of water in our excretory system will take place. Okay, improve your learning. Try to answer these questions on your own and show it to your teacher. Okay, draw a flow chart showing divisions of nervous system. Differentiate somatic and autonomic nervous systems. What is the importance of feedback mechanism? Explain the feedback mechanism with an example. Differentiate sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. What happens if there is only sympathetic nervous system exists in our body? Okay, thank you very much, each and everyone. Thank you. Sir,
శ్రీన్ సార్ లేరుగా?
మీ కోహోస్ట్ ఉందా?
ఏదేమో లేదుగా, నాకు కూడా లేదు. ఫోన్ చేయి.
సారీ, ఫోన్ చేయాలి.
సార్ లైవ్ ఆపనా?
ఆపేయండి సార్.